Good evening. Welcome to another edition on the Monday night edition of The People Show right here on IntellectualRadio.com, streaming live on Facebook and at YouTube with Mark Wallace and Charles Thomas.
Yo.
Every Monday night, and we have been gone for a week or so, and we are back here live with you tonight. You can call and chime in with the conversation with us as we delve into a number of things. Our telephone number is 708-223-8953, 708-223-8953. That's 708-223-8953. We want to hear from you. We'll pick up your phone calls a little bit later on in the program. So we've been gone for a couple of weeks, and it's been a busy couple of weeks.
Very busy couple of weeks, man. We actually had a new mayor inaugurated last week ago tonight. I mean,
we'll get into
Monday.
that. Yeah, we'll get into that. And a lot of activities since that time has taken place, and we'll talk about that. And the new first city council meeting coming up this Wednesday. But before we get into that, I want to talk about a couple of transitions that took place. Jim Brown made his transition on this past week, 87 years old.
87 years old. I can remember seeing Jim Brown with my father, watching, of course, the Cleveland Browns play. And, Jim Brown was... he was the Michael Jordan of his era in terms of American sports. He was clearly the greatest, certainly to that point of time, that ever played the game of football.
I would concur that he was the greatest because the obstacles that he had to endure and overcome during the time that he played, even playing, and the kinds of abuse that he was receiving simply because he was a black man.
But he didn't. He did not let that affect him.
I know
he went above and beyond it, and
he went through it.
He went through it. But Jim Brown did not care what they thought about Jim Brown. Jim Brown was going to do what he did. And I think he, if you could almost compare it to, I'm trying to think of any contemporary athlete that to which you could compare it.
I don't think you can compare it to it because they're not doing the kinds of things that they were deliberately doing in sports to black athletes at that time.
Certainly.
So that's not happening to that magnitude, or if at all, today, that he had to endure.
Here's the name. Here's the name. Jack Johnson, the great heavyweight champion of the early 20th century.
Right.
He did not care what white folks said or about him. They would do to him, but he continued. This guy had a white woman.
Many of them.
1910s. Right. I mean, publicly. And he was above this whole American situation. And Jim Brown, I got that feeling from him too.
Flee the country. Jim Brown didn't flee the country. Jim Brown went through all of that, but he excelled. But he also was a person who excelled in my judgment of a person who stood up. Then he was a great lacrosse player, and most people
absolutely. They say he was the greatest of all time.
Yeah, he was a phenomenal lacrosse player back then, and but it's rarely talked about, if ever.
Lacrosse is rarely talked about.
Well, of course, in black circles.
Yeah. Well, I think even in all kinds of circles,
that
elitist
is talked about. But at any rate, he was very good at it. The first movie that I ever saw Jim Brown in was Tick, Tick, Tick.
I remember 100 Rifles, where he was with Raquel Welch, which was a verboten, man. You weren't supposed to be playing the lead opposite Raquel Welch, which he did.
What year was that?
That had to be the mid-'60s. 100 Rifles, I think. She was the...
What was his first movie?
Sex symbol.
Because I think Tick, Tick, Tick was his second or third movie. But my mother took my sister and I to go with her because my mother was in college at the time. going through night school, and she had to do a thesis on a movie, and the movie that we had to go see was Tick, 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 that my mother took my sister and I to go see. And I love that movie, and I love it to this date. I still love that movie where he became a sheriff in a town that never had a black sheriff before, and he won despite a lot of the opposition there, and it was not received well by the whites, of course, in that town. And but Jim Brown, he ran through that the same way that he ran through the bigotry that he experienced on the football field.
Yeah, 100 Rifles was 1969.
100 Rifles was 1969. Yeah. What year was Tick, Tick, Tick?
That I couldn't tell you. I haven't looked that one up yet.
Yeah, I think Tick, Tick, Tick had to be in 67 or 68, somewhere around there, because I was a little guy.
It's called Tick, Tick, Tick.
Tick, Tick, Tick.
TIC?
Yes, I believe it was TIC or TICK. TIC. Tick, Tick, Tick. It was one of his first movies. It was a great movie. If you haven't seen it, you should.
1970s. 100 Rifles apparently was before that.
Okay, so Tick, Tick, Tick was 1970?
Yeah.
Okay, so 100 Rifles was before that, and that might have been one of his first movies, 100 Rifles. Yeah. But at any rate, he was great in Tick, Tick, Tick. And he was stand-up. He was sitting right there with Muhammad Ali when he was talking him through not going to the war, along with Abdul Jabbar. Yes, and he was, he recently broke ranks with Colin Kaepernick. He scolded Colin Kaepernick for taking the knee, saying you should do that in some other venue than the football field. And Jim Brown said he did not appreciate anybody disrespecting the flag or the country, and he took a more conservative bent toward the whole civil rights piece. He was Amer-I-Can, which is the organization that he founded, was it had more of a conservative feel to it than the traditional civil rights organizations that had come about. He wanted self-responsibility. He was a big proponent of men taking charge of their own communities, and to that, I can appreciate that. What he wanted to do. I don't think it ever really caught on nationally, but Jim Brown stayed true to the game until the very end. Well, he certainly stayed true to whatever it was that he believed. But, in terms of, I never saw the piece or a part about him scolding Colin Kaepernick. But yeah, I guess, if he did, he would probably have to scold me too, because as far as I'm concerned, when the flag represents what it says it represents for all, then I will give honor and respect to the flag. But,
well, that was Jim Brown, so we're talking about Jim Brown, and that's what he believed in.
Yeah. So, so he's 87 years, and so God rest his soul. He certainly lived a life and stood for those things that he believed, and I think that he was a great champion for fighting for the civil rights of all people, and certainly of black people when black people were challenged, like people like Muhammad Ali. He stood with him side by side, as well as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So I think he lived in a great life, and he's a great example for many of us, and see he will leave a strong legacy.
Yep.
So one other person died was Sam Zell. I don't think the world will miss him. billionaire. I call him a billionaire extremist. And I think he owned a couple of sports teams. I think it was down in Florida or
Did
something
he?
like that. I can't remember.
I don't know which ones
Yeah.
that may have been.
Yeah.
I know he owned the Chicago Tribune for a very short period. He was the lead shareholder in the Tribune. It's gone through so many different incarnations over these past 10 to 15 years. It's hard to keep up with them. But I know that Sam Zell did take over the Tribune for a short period of time earlier in the millennium, if you will. And I remember reporters remember him coming through the newsroom, and they could not stand the idea that Sam Zell, who was a money guy, I mean, he wasn't about journalism. He was about making money. And the great fear then was that he would buy the Tribune and sell it for its component parts. He may have been doing some of that prior to him relinquishing ownership of the Tribune, but that was part of his story. I think that was maybe that was the moment, I think, when he was most public, because hundreds of thousands of people read the Tribune, and they know if he had a hand in it, then they had some connection to him. But other than that, he was just another rich guy.
What period of time was that?
The Tribune issue? I can't tell you exactly. I just know it was earlier this millennium, since 2000. He didn't own it very long.
Okay.
Because he,
it did go through several hands.
It's been through several. Since the, I guess the Tribune owned the Cubs and somebody owned the Tribune. Well, Tribune Company was a big company. It owned Channel 9. It owned the Cubs,
right,
as well as the newspaper. So
I guess they did sell off parts of it.
Somebody sold parts of it,
over time. Yeah. So we had the great inauguration. I thought that Brandon Johnson had a very powerful message and speech. You text me about it. I didn't go to the inauguration. I went to the gala later on.
Yeah, that's why we weren't here, right?
Why we were not here.
Well, I didn't go to the gala, but I got to tell you, man, I did not vote for Brandon Johnson, but I listened to him speak that morning, watching of course, the television feed, and it was a great speech. I listened, and as someone who didn't vote for him, there was a spark of excitement that I felt watching, because he was very hopeful. He was very positive. After the speech had ended, and I thought about it, I said to myself, well, he told us what, but he didn't say how. And I think even until now, a lot of people in Chicago are wondering, well, how is he going to do this? And when I say how, I mean, where is he going to get the money to do some of the things that he wants to do? Because already there is pushback from the business community, number one, and politicians are pushing back. And I don't know, where is he going to get? They're saying $800 million to affect some of the changes, some of the investments, as they call it, the spending that he'll need to restore mental health, to ensure public safety. Where's he going to get the money? I haven't heard that yet from him. Now, there was this group, I can't remember the name of it. Maybe you remember the name. They wrote the letter. The
United Working Families.
Yeah, they put all these things, this
wish list,
a wish list, and they had things in there that the mayor-elect has already said that has already backed away from. But I appreciate.
Well, they had things in there that the Sun-Times had to retract as saying that Brandon Johnson said these things. But this was the United Working Family, which I actually joined.
But United Working Families said them again, and United Working Families came up with an amount of money they said could be raised by these assorted taxes and such. I appreciated the United Working Families statement because it gave me a feel of what they want. And they are people who have been talking to Brandon Johnson and his sponsors at the Chicago Teachers Union and SEIU for many, many years. They've been in a conversation that Brandon's been involved in over the past decade or so. So,
well, Brandon was a part of
they,
organizing United Working Families, which was organized in 2013.
Okay, I don't know about that history, but at any rate, they gave me a feel for what the left, the radical left in the city, wants to have done to redistribute the wealth in Chicago. And I appreciate it because it sort of was a program for what the city council is going to have to decide over these next few years in terms of how they raise the money to do some of the things that, or all of the things that Brandon Johnson wants to do, accomplish during his first term. And it's going to be, there are some controversial items in that list, and there are companies now, including the Chicago Mercantile Exchange and others, who are saying they'll leave. They'll pull up stakes and go. In fact, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange says they've already sold their real estate. All they have here are their computers and their paper and their leased space, and they have outs on all their leases if something like a financial transaction tax is levied in Chicago. They're gone. They're gone.
Yeah, that's the that's the boogeyman that people like to throw up for
Duffy did not seem as though that was a boogeyman. He said, "I'm going to go."
Okay, well, bye. To the people who want to get a free pass and continue to get a free pass and think that only a certain group of people, that is the working class and the poor, should shoulder the burden of taxes, and wealthy people like people who are making hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars, like the Mercantile Exchange, and those exchanges pay nothing. And look, there have been a financial transaction tax. In fact, they have imposed it on themselves to pay for their own operations. A financial transaction tax on all of the different exchanges. So it's not anything new that hasn't been done, and it's being done in other parts of the world, and it's actually working. So that's the boogeyman that some people who just want to fly the flag for the super wealthy, and they have them throw that boogeyman out like they're going to scare somebody that the world's going to fall apart if they leave. Just you
can try it. You can try it. I think conditions are different now because people are working from home, and remote work is not as unusual as it may have been, say, in 2011. When Rahm Emanuel was elected mayor. Now you have a real situation where a company that's involved in the financial business in finance can move. They can leave their employees at home and give them a laptop like you have in front of you right now, and they can do everything at home that they could do in the office. They used to do in the office. In fact, office occupancy in Chicago right now, according to Cranes, is only about 50%. And businesses in the downtown financial district on LaSalle Street and such are virtually only half there now. And when these guys say they're going to move, I mean, they can do it. It's not going to be that unusual. In fact, they aren't even coming into Chicago to have dinner. I mean, they're staying out in the suburbs and doing all of their work there, and they're going to Gibson's in Oak Brook or the restaurants they would frequent in Chicago. They're eating in the suburbs.
Yeah, they don't have those restaurants in Sioux City, Iowa, and Nebraska and all these other places.
But they have them in Rosemont. to have them in Oak Brook.
Well,
I mean,
look, but they can't move their exchanges to Oak Brook, and
why not?
Because they will not be competitive in terms of trading.
But what do you mean? Why? Because trading is all being done on the laptop.
It's being done on the laptop, but their infrastructure is
That's what he said he'll do. He'll move the servers.
He's not going anywhere.
Why not?
Because he's not.
Because he's not?
No.
Well, he says he is. Let's go with what he says. Yeah. And we'll see what happens.
And if he does,
do you think that after what the governor has said about a financial transactions tax, that the Johnson administration and his people would actually try it?
Well, the governor is not the god to be all. I mean, he's one voice. There's a legislature, and there's a council, and there are other voters. He is one person. He's not. We don't live in a totalitarian state.
They also within that United Working Families document, they talked about a city income tax that would be levied not only on people who come into the city to work, but those who live here, who make over $100,000 a year, which, quite frankly, is not much at all.
I read that and I didn't see them imposing that.
So, well, I don't know if they're going to impose it, but it was mentioned
I didn't
as
see
a
that
possible way to raise some of the money.
I read that letter and I didn't read that.
You didn't read
the
it?
letter? No.
I
didn't read that.
Quick.
Yeah. So, but we will have to see. Brandon Johnson is going to be having his first city council meeting. He's formulating his cabinet, or his administration, I should say. He's got 400 jobs that he's got to fill within his administration. He still has to put someone in as a corporation counsel, and we have to give him time to formulate that and to see how he's able to work these. Now, he is putting some deputy mayors to make sure that he can communicate with each side of the city, which I think is a very interesting thing to do. Lori Lightfoot had, a couple of deputy mayors, but we never saw here in Ohio than maybe a couple of times. But there wasn't a whole lot of collaboration between the deputy mayors and the community. We'll see, and I hope that collaborative agenda that he talked about will come to fruition. I have great hope in it, and I believe that Brandon is going to try to make sure that he does. He reemphasized that in a conversation he was having this past weekend someplace about that. And in fact, I was out with Jedediah Brown and on this past Thursday night, because I had been very concerned and very concerned about the shootings and the murders that have been happening at 79th and Cottage Grove, which we have had 7 fatalities this year.
Shooting. Really?
At 79th and Cottage Grove. And so I went to the 6th District 3 weeks ago and talked to the desk sergeant about putting some special attention over there for some extended period of time until, some more comprehensive things can be done to deal with the issues that we're having all over in certain areas. And so this past week, not only did they put some special attention out there, but they had what I call kind of a ceremonial type thing. They had a roll call there between the 6th district and the sheriff's department was out there, and even Michelle Harris showed up out there, and then they were there till midnight, and they have some special units around the area. And so I had gone to the previous alderman, who was of the 6th ward, but part of 79th and Cottage Grove. It's split up. One part is in the 6th, one part is in the 8th, in the 8th district, or I'm sorry, in the 8th ward. So Jedediah Brown and I were out there Thursday night, 7 o'clock to 8:30, and he went on Facebook sometime back and said that this was something that he was spiritually moved by, and I happened to see it. So I reached out to him and I said, "Wow, this may be providential, because you're saying that you're going to come down there, and I have been working with the district and trying to see what they could do about mitigating what's going on over there." I said, "I'll be there with you." So he and I were there, and a few other people came out, and the mayor
But you need to
sent
explain
some people out there.
What's been going on over there, because
well, what's been happening on 79th and Cottage Grove is that, in my judgment, that these people who are operating in that street space feel like it's comfortable for them to come to that spot.
What is it, drugs? Or what?
I don't know whether it's drugs, but I'm assuming that it has something to do with some turf or something is not legal, that's for sure. But that they are carrying out their vengeance on whoever it is that they have a beef with. Now, from what I have gotten, the information is that there are these beefs that go on, and some of them are fighting beefs where one guy gets the better of another guy, and their people take out revenge.
So there's a big liquor store on the corner there.
Liquor store called.
That's where everybody probably goes, and they see each other there, and then it jumps off.
Or in that area, yes. It just in that area, because it's happening between 79th and Cottage Grove is the center, but then you have Evans to the west, and then you have Maryland to the east and 80th Street. So it's all happening right in there. But the liquor store there is a big draw, because when the liquor store is closed, everything disperses.
Ooh.
It becomes a ghost town. Right.
Okay.
So what has happened over there, because the liquor store used to operate, I don't know if it was 24 hours, but it used to operate to the wee hours of the night. I'm going to say that.
Mm-hmm.
But so the aldermen and the community over there put pressure on. They tried to close the liquor store before, but they weren't successful at doing it. But they were able to force them to close at 10 o'clock at night. So when the liquor store closes, you go over there, there's like not a soul on the street. But in the morning time, up until that time, it's a big congregation point. So it draws the wrong activity over there. And I'm not saying, because I don't have evidence of it, but I'm just saying that it seems to be when the liquor store is open, this is where you see people. When the liquor store is closed, it doesn't happen.
Speaking of the whole crime, public safety piece, did you hear about what happened in Tinley Park over the weekend, where they had basically a flash mob, again, of teenagers who descended on a carnival in Tinley Park on I think it was last Saturday night, and it was so disruptive that on Sunday, whoever was sponsoring the carnival shut it down.
Packed up and left. Yes, and I saw that this morning.
Yeah, these again were black teenagers, and I can talk about it. It wasn't portrayed that way on the news, clearly, because they're afraid of being called racist. But you and I certainly can talk about it. I mean, we have again hundreds of black teenagers being organized on the internet, on their phones, and they descend on a place and they cause chaos, disorder. Add to that, we had the situation, of course, in Chicago last month on that warm night, that Saturday night. And then we had the teenagers who were trolling, committing robberies, and allegedly shot and killed the police officer. I'm just trying to connect the dots. Mm-hmm. And these are our children. These are our children. And I don't know that we're really addressing them. You talked about the march that you participated in downtown, but it seems like there's going to have to be a conversation about how our children are acting out.
Well, I think what has to happen is part of it, and my being out in the community helps me to kind of formulate how some approaches that we could, because we're going to have to connect with those people to understand why, and I want to get to the why it's happening, and why they're choosing to do what they're doing. That I want to get to that. Now, going back to the police officer, Ariana Preston, who was murdered by these four teenagers.
Allegedly murdered.
Allegedly murdered by these four teenagers, but she was murdered and shot 9 times. I was compelled to go to her service, and I went to her service. I have never gone to a police officer's service, never gone to a firefighter service, but I was just compelled to go to her service. And so I went to her service and sat with the 5th District. And shout out to Monty, Reverend Monty over in the 3rd District, who I've known for a number of years. When I bought the ballroom, his church is right behind there. But, and looking at all of the police officers and the firefighters and their support for the loss of this great voice and someone who they spoke so highly of. It was, I think that moved a number of people very differently. Here she was 24 years old, 10 days from walking down the aisle to receive her master's degree. She had just completed her studies for her master's degree in some area of criminology. She wanted to go on to the FBI. She was getting ready to even apply for the FBI. She saw herself as being at one day a superintendent of police. It was gut wrenching and very moving for me. And to see, and hopefully they have the people who committed this. And if they do have the people that committed this, they were between the ages of 17 and 19, I believe. 4 people.
16, 2 18s, and a 19.
Yeah.
1 17, and something like
Yeah.
that. But they weren't 20 years old.
So, yeah. So, and we continue to pray for her mother, who just exemplified extraordinary strength, and her father and her sisters. But being there and standing outside when they were having the lineup of all of these police officers that were surrounding this church, and all the way down 95th Street and all the way down the side street, being a part of that was very moving. I almost can't even explain it, that it was very moving. And, I know that people, have certain tensions about the police department. And I had a chance to meet the new commander of the 6th District and talk with some of them. And, I just I really do take my hat off to the men and women who get up every day to do that work, to serve our communities, and just what, this she had finished her shift, was just getting ready to go into her house. It was just very devastating, but it was also very moving and just a beautiful thing to see so many people supporting that family. Unfortunately, we had to learn about her under these circumstances.
Let me connect some dots. I think it was a Thursday after the shooting. She had not been buried yet. The Chicago Sun-Times did an article. In fact, I'm looking at it now. It was written by Matthew Hendrickson, David Struett, and Tom Schuba. Those are the three reporters. I've never met any of them. But the headline is, remember, this is 3 days before Mother's Day. Two mothers linked by tragedy, colon. One lost her police officer daughter. The other's 16-year-old son is accused of the officer's murder. They interviewed these two women. And the story goes on, and it tells the story that you just told about Ariana. And then it told the story of the 16-year-old who was out at 1:45 in the morning, and he was riding around with these other kids. One of them named Little Munchie, who did rap videos and such, and with a gun, by the way. I mean, he would flash a gun around. And this story is kind of long because it really went into who these women are, and their children. There was not one mention of a father, not one, in the entire story. I'm looking at the reporters. Well, why didn't you just ask? Well, what about his dad? How's he taking it? I mean, anything. There was nothing in this article, May 10th, Chicago Sun-Times. The definitive pre-Mother's Day tragic story. Not one mention of a father, of these young boys, not only the victim, but of one of the alleged perps. And I read it and I'm saying, when Mayor-elect not Mayor-elect, but Mayor Johnson talks about getting at the root causes of crime, we got to start talking about the family. We have to. These kids who were out at 1:45 in the morning with guns, sticking people up, they probably didn't know that Ariana was a police officer when they accosted her.
Yeah, they did. She had her uniform on.
Well, she had her uniform on, but they probably, it's night. They probably weren't going for a cop. You think so?
They weren't going for I don't think they were going for a cop specifically.
I mean, they knew they shot a cop after they shot a cop, but they had apparently had robbed other people that same night, rolling around. But what I'm saying,
no, they did. They connected them. They connected them to 6 different robberies.
But where are the adult male supervisors in the community? I mean, the fathers who are the supervisors should be the parents of their children. They're not there. And now we're getting to the point where these reporters at the Sun-Times, they're thoroughly disregarding our family. They're not even asking about fathers anymore. They just assume that every black teenager out there is the offspring of a baby mama, and that's the end of it. And our community, believe me, the black community, the larger black community cannot survive this. And we're not the only ones who are facing the breakup of the family. It's happening all over American society, but we're getting the worst of it. Our children are acting out more, at least in this environment in the city of Chicago and in the suburbs, apparently, according to Tinley Park, are acting out. And we're not talking about it. We act like this isn't part of the problem. This is a huge part. This is probably the biggest part of the problem.
Well, we have to get to the why before we can make a determination on what is, the biggest part of the problem.
I just gave you the why.
First of all,
or a why.
That's a why. But that's
that's
typically what a lot of people just like to turn to.
A lot of people. I'm a lot of people. I think I'm a fairly logical person. I mean, I think if you have 2 adults there,
I'm not talking about you being illogical. I'm just
your children is better than one. And if one of them is a male, he's going to deal with those male children.
Okay, can I finish?
Effectively.
Can I finish my statement as you did?
Make that out.
Okay. All right. So that there has to be a holistic conversation. I don't think that anybody is condoning it. There are a lot of people who have um, that same sentiment that we have a lot of children who don't have the support of their father and mother. There are a lot of circumstances around that, but this is not, the majority of our community.
What do you mean? It's not the majority.
Well, because this is a smaller percentage.
80% of our children are growing up in single parent households.
Can I finish the point?
Yeah,
and then you can follow it up. No, you can. But you don't even know what I'm getting ready to say before you can. No, you don't. No, you don't. No, I didn't. I didn't finish my statement. Now, if you know what I'm going to say, then I don't need to say it. You just say it.
You said the majority of
Let me finish my statement, and then you can respond.
Of our families, it is.
It is not the majority of black families. Are you telling me that 80% of black families are out doing this?
No.
Then let me finish my point.
But having single parent families.
Let me finish my point, and then you can respond. All right. This is not the greater majority of the black community. It's probably 15% of the black community. So the other 85% of the black community are people who are taking care of what they need to be taking care of, working hard, doing what they need to be doing, putting their children to school, children going to school, doing great positive things. There is 15% or 20%. It's not the greater majority of our people, but we have to find out why this is going on and help those people who need help. Because I see a lot of people talking about, we got to help the children. Well, let's go back and look at the totality of their situation, because maybe their parent needs some help or parents need some help. I know as a child growing up, my father was not the traditional, in the traditional role as a father should be, or is that I thought he should be. But what I did have were men that I call stand in the gap men, the school teachers, the park rangers, whatever, were people who were there to help supervise me, help my mother, other men in the community. And I think that happened all around the country, not just where I'm from, but I think it happened all around the country. And being out in the streets last Thursday in particular, again, having the opportunity to speak with some people who are operating in that space and to ask them, what can we do to help you? What can we do to help you? Gave them some information, gave them our telephone numbers, contact us, let us help you get to a better place in life. I think that is the kind of thing that we have to do. And I thank, again, the Brandon Johnson administration for sending somebody out there to be with us.
Our telephone number here at the People Show is 708-223-8953, 708-223-8953. You're welcome to join the conversation. I'm Charles Thomas, along with Mark Wallace, and we are talking about our young people and what might be done to get them out of the news. I mean, they've done some pretty wild things over these past few weeks, and we're chopping it up, trying to provide some analysis as to why.
Yeah, but I think that we have to get out. We have to get out and have that conversation, at least to try to understand what's happening.
Well, I think I know what's happening. I think we know what's happening. Our kids are not being supervised. You
can't just oversimplify it that way. I think that we have to do more than just sit back and pontificate and opine about it. I think we have to get out there and try to do and make a difference, understanding it, really understanding it, because it's enough. It's one thing to talk about somebody. It's another thing to talk to them. And I'm very critical of people who just spend a lot of time talking about people and not willing to talk to them.
Some of us actually talk to our own children, and that's talking to them. And that is what I believe a big part of what's missing, that we aren't talking to our children. I talk to my children. I do. I mean, so it's not that I'm not talking to Ray Ray and and whoever else and Little Munchie. No, I'm not talking to them because I don't
That's what
come
I'm
into
talking
contact
about.
with them.
Well, that's what I'm
But
talking
I'm
about.
not talking to them. I take care of mine, and I think people have to begin to take care of their own. And there needs to be a big conversation about that, and we can't shy away from it.
Well,
And
wouldn't you?
we
Don't
have
you
to
think
take
there needs to
responsibility
be,
for it.
if there needs to be a conversation about it, wouldn't there need to be an inclusive conversation about it
An inclusive what do you mean inclusive
with the
conversation?
people that you're talking about?
Well, I think we have to talk to the parents. We have to make the parents aware of what's going on. And I don't see any campaign, any effort to do that. I don't see that happening. I see people making a lot of excuses, but I don't hear people saying, hey, you got to take care of your children. You have to take responsibility for them. You just have to. And I don't think there's any and I will agree with you, most parents do. They do, but there are a large number out there who clearly are not, because we can see them in the street. They were in Tinley Park over the weekend. They were out in the Loop or down at Millennium Park 3 or 4 weeks ago. They're out there.
Yeah, well,
These four are out riding around shooting cops.
yeah, I wouldn't say that there's a large number. I think that there are some parents, like the woman who, when she found out that her son was a part of it, she did a gut wrenching thing, and took her son and turned her son into the authorities when she found out that he was a part of that horrific shooting that took place, of this and murder of this police officer. And I can only imagine how gut wrenching that had to be, of a mother who, one, knew that her son, or found out that her son was a part of that, and then having to take her son to the authorities and turn him over to the authorities of being a part of that horrific murder. I can only just imagine how horrific
horrifying.
that of experience of her. That parent needs help, and there are many other parents like her that need help.
She needed help.
I believe that we need to facilitate and whatever we have to do to organize to try to help and reach families that need that kind of support.
Okay, but she needed the help months, years ago. That's what I'm saying. We have to begin to encourage and to set a new standard. And this whole baby mama culture, baby daddy culture, we've got to start talking about it. We don't want that for our community. That's what we have to do. It's too late for her son. He's going to the penitentiary. He's going to be locked down. And the other three, they're going to the penitentiary and will probably be there for most of the rest of their lives, if not all of the rest of their lives. They needed help some time ago. And there's one of the kids who was arrested, he was a rapper named Little Munchie, or Lil Munchie, as they say. And he had a rap video out where he's got these tattoos on his face, and he's parading around with a Glock with a automatic switch on it or something like that. But there were like 6 or 7 kids in the picture with him with guns doing the same thing. Where are they? They're next.
Yeah, well, the country is glorifying guns and promoting that everybody should have a gun, and do nothing about this overproliferation of guns, and having this clinging to protecting the Second Amendment so that you can have any kind of military style weapon that you want. You can get a gun faster than you can go buy a Happy Meal or a hamburger.
Really?
At a McDonald's.
You buy a gun at easy. Well,
Listen, I'm telling you, I have heard.
We had this conversation.
I've heard people who say that, you can get a gun faster than you, and easier than you can go buy a hamburger at a joint. But speaking, again, we are going to continue to organize resources, and I was trying to finish it. That's one of the things that Jedediah and I were talking about. How do we make this bigger? So I started making phone calls and talking to some other people, and there are other people out there doing some of this similar things. But and I said, well, we need to formulate this in a bigger way that it could be more impactful to help parents, so we can prevent what happened to Ariana from happening to anybody else, that we could prevent them. We can prevent the loss of a life like Ariana, and we could prevent 4 other people from destroying their lives. And I think that these families, these mothers, these single parents, or whatever they are, because I don't know, I'm not in their home, so I'm not making a determination on what their household look like. I just know that there are people who need help, and if we're going to be so critical of them, then I say step up to the plate and let's find out what they need and let's help them.
That seems to be the mission that the mayor is undertaking, because he, of course, is going after the root causes of crime. And I would contend to him that what's happening in the family is a root cause. And I hope that it is among the root causes that are to be addressed in the new administration. Hey, something I want to tell you about, man, or talk to you about. The NAACP. Did you hear what their edict about? Yes, your home state, man.
Yeah.
Are you going to go back? Will you heed that?
Yeah, I don't. Listen, I think that they were making a statement. Overall, and I get where they were going.
Let me tell people. Maybe people haven't heard. The NAACP is saying that Black people and LGBTQ people should not travel to Florida, because Florida is, I'm presuming, anti-Black and anti-LGBTQ plus. So that's from the president, national president of the NAACP.
There were two other groups, the United Latin American Corp, and I think it was Quality for Life or something. There were 3 different groups.
That said, don't go to Florida.
That gave travel advisories because of some of the positions that I guess soon to be announcing Ron DeSantis, which is a joke, to be announcing that he has taken in Florida.
Regarding what?
Regarding certain groups of people.
Well, I mean, I know they had the business about the schools where they did not want this gender, I guess. This whole
he's banned on books, and he doesn't want he continues to talk about a study that's not even being taught, and most people haven't learned unless you've gone to law school, and he continues to talk about critical race theory and said that theory shouldn't be taught to our children.
And the whole pronoun thing shouldn't be taught in grade school before the age of 3 or something like that. But I was doing some reading.
His whole attack on Disney.
Attack on Disney. But check this out though. Have you heard of the Economic Policy Institute? It is the think tank that is run by the AFL-CIO and the Service Employees International Union, as well as the steel workers, the mine workers, and the auto workers. It's a union think tank. It's called the Economic Policy Institute, and they do a roundup of employment every 4 times a year, every 3 months. And Florida has a black unemployment rate of 3.8%, which is among the lowest in the country, and it is the lowest among the 10 largest states, 3.8%. Illinois has a black unemployment rate of 10.9%. You are 3.5 times more likely to be unemployed as a black person in Illinois than you would be in Florida. And Illinois, in fact, has the highest, these are labor numbers now, these are from organized labor, the highest black unemployment rate in these United States, Illinois, right where we live. So the NAACP guy is talking about black people shouldn't go to Florida, where you are 3 times more likely to be unemployed, where you will have a much better chance to get a job than you would be in Illinois. I mean, I just find, to me, it's a classic example of how we get caught up in so much bull crap when the economics should be what we are concerned about. Black unemployment in Florida, 3.8%. Black unemployment in Illinois, 10.9%, the highest in the country. So where would you rather be, particularly if you don't have a job?
I wouldn't want to be in Florida.
I would.
That's for sure, because the earning between what black people earn here in Illinois to what black people earn in Florida is drastically different.
So you can't. So these 10.9% of the people,
so
they're not going to take
black
a job
unemployment
in
nationally. Black unemployment nationally is at its lowest that it has been in 50 years.
Okay, fine, but I'm talking about the comparison between Florida and Illinois. Illinois has the highest black unemployment rate in the country, despite all these black political leaders, black Democrat political leaders that we have. And this Republican governor is governing a state that has an unemployment rate of less than 4%. And the NAACP is telling me, don't go there, don't go there. No, you stay where you are, where the unemployment rate is 11%. I mean, it's just that we get so caught up in bull crap, that that this kind of stuff that we're talking about here, that they don't want you to go because of this or that or this or that, when economics should be what we are concerned about, not this other stuff. What's your pronoun and all that? I mean, that's not our problem.
Well,
that's not. Come on.
Listen, the idea that you have a governor who would want to ban books from
what kind of books?
From all kinds of books.
I mean,
all kinds of books,
like
all kinds of educational books, all kinds of educational books.
Is it Tom Sawyer or Huckleberry Finn? What kind of book?
No, all kinds of book.
Like what
African, renowned African American who have written books.
Like who?
What's the woman's name? That I can't think of
exactly, because there are none.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is.
I just the problem with the Black History piece.
No.
You want to know what the problem is?
No.
You don't want to hear?
Yeah.
You want to hear?
Well, your opinion.
That's not an opinion.
It is your opinion. It's going to be your opinion.
No, it isn't.
Because you're trying to tell me that it doesn't exist.
No, I'm saying that the fight in Florida is over whether or not there should be what they call intersectionality within Black history courses, and intersectionality between LGBTQ and Black history, and whether or not we should discuss a Black person's.
You're compartmentalizing. Yes, you are.
The truth. Whether or not we should consider a Black person in Black history, that person's sexuality. apparently there's some course that intersects the two, and the detractors, including black academics, who are saying no, whether a person sleeps with a person of the same sex or whatever has nothing to do with black history. They made the example of, I think it was Bayard Rustin, who organized the 1963 March on Washington. He was a homosexual. He was gay. Did that have anything to do with him organizing the March on Washington, where King gave the I Have a Dream speech? No. And that's what black academics in Florida also protested, that it has nothing to do with the black struggle. And that's what the debate is. Now, I don't know how they're going to figure it out, if they figure it out, but that's what it was about. It wasn't about banning black history. Who's going to ban black history? History is history. You can't change that. Well, but that's what it was about.
Why would you ban anything that have
because it has nothing to do with someone's sexuality.
So wait a
second.
second.
To do with whether
the
or not
1619 project, the
the
1619 project by Nicole Hannah Jones, banned in Florida. Banned.
I don't know that.
All right.
I don't
well,
know
I'm
that.
telling you. You asked me to give you one.
Okay,
I gave you one.
The 1619 project.
Yeah. So
as a matter of coursework in a school, or you can buy the book in Florida.
It is
you can
banned
buy the article
in public schools in Florida by the governor.
By the governor. Okay.
Yes, by the governor.
Okay.
Okay. So, and other books like that.
Well,
all right.
Give me the other books. That one, I see what he's doing. I know what they're doing. They're talking about the narrative, as opposed not changing the history. But it's the narrative.
The narrative. It's the 1619 project.
No, you can.
So what's the narrative of the 1619 project that should not be taught?
The merit, what he is protesting, and I'm not saying I agree with him. I'm just explaining what's going on.
Oh, okay.
He is he is saying that the narrative should not be in the negative or teach victim and oppressor, and he says the narrative should be that black people have overcome anything that's been put in their way.
Who the hell is Ron DeSantis?
I know, but don't argue with me.
I'm not arguing. I'm just asking the question.
I'm trying to explain what the deal is. See, you can teach black history as black people being perpetual victims of white racism in this hemisphere, or you can teach that black people have been overcomers of white racism in this hemisphere. A lot of black people that I have heard speak out on this issue say they don't want their children taught to be victims. They want them taught to be overcomers and winners and victors and not victims. The 1619 project has a narrative within it that every time black people have taken a step forward, white people have come in and stopped them cold. Whereas but that isn't the truth. The truth is we have overcome. So that's the narrative. And a lot of people on the right are saying that the 1619 project is teaching victimhood to black people. And there are black people, I can't say a lot, but there are black people who would agree that the 1619 project teaches victimhood when it should be teaching victory. That we have been victorious every step of the way, and our children should be taught that.
So that's what you say that Ron DeSantis.
That is the philosophy.
That's his philosophy.
What's going on in that regard?
And I say, who the hell is Ron DeSantis to tell black people how they should learn about their history in the first place? Who is he to dictate to black people how they should teach black history?
Well, there are black academics who are supporting him.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't know who those black academics are, but there are many academics that are not supporting him. A multiracial and many black academics that are not supporting him. So I'm not sure who these black academics that you speak of, but Here is a list of books: The Color Purple by Alice Walker, The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison, banned in public schools. Completely banned by this man, along with a bunch of other well-noted authors, all the way back in our history. And all of a sudden, Ron DeSantis decides that their writings should not be taught to children in public school. And I don't know any black people. Who are insisting that their children are taught as victims or are not overcomers. Black people have been overcomers ever since they were forced into this country. Right. That they have been overcoming lynching, the ones who survived it and weren't lynched, slavery. Black people have been overcomers since we've been in this world. So we've been victimized by oppression and hatred from racist, some who believe that black folks are inferior simply because that they are black. Black folks have been overcomers, extraordinarily overcomers. We have overcome. So there's no question that black folks have been overcoming. But for somebody to suggest that they don't want for history to be told because they're going to feel bad, too bad. Who cares whether you feel bad or not? And to suggest that somehow that is going to make their little white children somehow feel like they have guilt. They're going to have guilt. All this nonsense that they throw up so that they can hide behind that or try to hide their racist attacks, and their racist positions behind this, suggesting that somehow their racist positions is black people's fault for being victims as rather than victors. Black people have been victors since we came into this world.
What'd you think about Joe Biden's speech? We've been gone a couple of weeks. We weren't able to talk about it last week. But his speech in which he said that white supremacy is the greatest, biggest terroristic threat in the United States.
That wasn't Joe Biden that came up with it. That was Trump's FBI director. Hold on a second.
He said it at Howard University. Hold on a second. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you where he got it from.
I don't care where he got it from. He's the president of the United States.
Exactly.
I did not. Nobody.
He got it from because Trump's FBI appointed director.
But I'm talking about the president.
Well, let me tell you about it.
I don't care about the FBI director.
Well, I'm going to tell you.
What do you think about the president saying?
I'm going to tell you about what I think about it. I'm going to tell you about it because you started your premise off that it came from him, and it did not.
It did come from him. He said it. I saw him.
The FBI director.
I saw him say it. Not unless they used AI or something.
What was testified?
He said it.
What was testified by Trump's FBI director that says
Joe Biden repeated it. Said it. Joe Biden is the president,
and he should have repeated it.
Okay, so he said it. What do you think the impact of it will be? That was my question. What do you think about Joe Biden saying that white supremacy is the biggest terrorist threat of terrorism in the United States today? He said it to Howard University graduates.
Yeah, he repeated what was investigated and what
is that true?
Was determined. Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, the FBI.
You mean the same FBI that made up the thing about
the same FBI director that was appointed by your president Donald Trump that testified before.
But anyway,
testified before.
But
Joe,
do you think Joe believes that? Do you think he believes that?
Why wouldn't he?
So what do you think?
Why wouldn't he believe it?
What do you think that's going to mean? What do you think it's going to mean when him saying that? Do you think that when you drive home tonight, you should worry about
it means just what he said,
or the Nazis coming to get you, black man, white supremacists? are the greatest terroristic threat in the United States, even though 7 million people come across the border, we don't even know who they are. They could be any number of people. They're a bigger threat than even that.
You want?
I mean, I don't.
See.
And the
we haven't. Black folks have not been lynched by people coming across the border, by Mexicans or Venezuelans coming across. We haven't been lynched by people coming across the border. Black people have been lynched by white folks from the United States of America.
We got one of those lately.
We
have one of those.
Lately? There is a report of one.
Where's that?
There is a report of one. I tried to share it with you. You didn't want to hear it a couple weeks ago. Man. You didn't want to hear about it.
I mean, I couldn't confirm it. I couldn't find it online. I mean, I looked.
I wanted to share it with you.
Well, I'm trying, man. I mean, I just didn't hear about it, and I wanted to read about it.
So there are people who are out there that are hurling these threats, and that people should be lynched. And in fact, there was just a few weeks ago of some sheriffs that were caught on tape talking about.
I think I read something about that. I read something about that.
New Mexico or somewhere.
I read something about that.
A whole bunch of, I shouldn't say a bunch, but a few of them. The sheriff and his deputies talking about lynching people. So I'm not going to pretend.
So did they get somebody? But they planned. They thought they would. They
were talking about.
They were talking about.
They were talking about
killing somebody, a black person.
No, they weren't. Wasn't a black person in that conversation. They were talking about lynching black folks.
Like how many?
They didn't say how many.
Maybe about as many as have been shot to death by black people in Chicago over the last month.
Does it really matter how many people
because that hasn't happened, Mark. That's my problem. Is that it hasn't happened when we face death.
Well, you can stay on the defense.
I'm not on the defense. Defense or defense.
You can stay on the defense of of those people who perpetuate that kind of hate.
Well, I just wondered if the president. I wondered if the president was stoking racial division in order to benefit from it politically.
Maybe.
Because as long as he has black people lined up to vote for him, that means they're going to win Pennsylvania, Illinois, Wisconsin, and all those swing states where you have large concentrations of black people who can be swayed by these emotional issues, who go out and vote for the Democrats, who otherwise do nothing for them.
I certainly applaud
but
the fact that he's not walking around as a white person, blinded to the fact or pretending that it doesn't exist.
He's done that before in his 94 crime bill, in his comments about they're gonna put y'all back in chains if you ain't black, if you don't vote for me, then you ain't black. This guy is an incredible racist. And he accuses everybody else of being one.
No, he's not accusing everybody else of being
one.
No,
he accuses everybody else of being one. The other party of being one.
He's not accusing everybody else of being one. Listen. Everybody, I have never heard President Biden accuse every person who is a Republican as a racist. Now he calls them MAGA.
He says they're the MAGA Republicans.
They are MAGA Republicans.
He calls them MAGA. It's like,
I don't believe
it's like 75 million of them out there. MAGA Republicans who voted for Trump.
30% of even Republicans are saying that 30% of the people who support Trump are the MAGA Republicans. Republicans are saying it.
No, I don't know the difference between a MAGA Republican and a Republican. I call it a Trump voter or a not Trump voter.
They're considered to be those that of the extremists that just want to blow up the government. That's what the MAGA Republicans are.
Here's my problem.
Right?
Here's my problem.
Those who are in that group that they have in the Congress that just want to blow up the government. They don't care anything about the government function.
I'm an independent. Okay. My problem is when the president of the United States says something like that, he is stoking racial division. Racial division does not benefit black people. Why? Because we only make up 10, 12% of the population. They got all these guns, man. If you start a situation where you got black people fighting white people in this country, we are in a hell of a position. We don't need some white boy out there talking trash to the rednecks and getting them fired up. We don't need that.
You already had it.
No.
You
but
already,
he does, as president of the United States.
Did you say that about Trump?
You interrupted me, man. You interrupted me.
Did you say that about Trump?
I said, absolutely.
When?
I've said here, if I haven't, listen, I've said it 15 times. I do not want to see Donald Trump run for president in 2024 because he is too divisive, divisive, and he triggers people.
You've never said that Donald Trump. You've never said that Donald Trump stoked racial division. You've never said that.
What do you think I'm saying when I'm saying I don't want to see him run? Because let me say this: black people were better off under Donald Trump than they are under this guy. But there was peace in the world, man. There was peace in the world. The black unemployment rate was low. Come on, man.
Black unemployment is low.
Black people were making money.
Under this administration than it is
$6
been in 50 years.
Half dozen eggs.
No, you don't. I spent 99 cents for a dozen eggs
yesterday. Where are you shopping?
Yesterday.
Where?
Jewel.
Where? Jewel?
Yeah.
I'm going there, man. Is it system wide? For all the stores, man, I stopped buying
99 cents.
Man.
Last week they had them on
sale
for $2
so all this stuff about Joe's administration and inflation is untrue, huh? Really?
Inflation is getting better.
It's getting better.
Yeah, it's getting
because
better.
of the Inflation Reduction Act. Is that what it is?
It's certainly going down.
Better. It is going down. Yeah. But to me, man, I feel like I have less money in my pocket since Joe Biden became president than I had during Donald Trump. And I also look at this crazy war that Joe Biden has going on in Ukraine, where they are killing hundreds of thousands of people. He's sending the weapons. He's sending weapons to people, man, billions of dollars worth of weapons so that they can kill each other over there. And then they can order more weapons from the military industrial complex. And those guys can get richer and richer and richer while they continue to kill people in Europe. Like I care about that. Like I care about Putin. Come on, man. I ain't worried about Putin. I'm worried about little Munchie and his boys.
All right. Well,
Putin. Why do we care about that, man? Why do we care about that?
Because it's a great threat
to what?
To the international world, and could
to the international world, to you and me.
It could be,
and the United States.
Yeah,
really?
It could be. Yeah,
really? Because Putin's gonna come over here and blow us up.
Yeah. Well,
you really believe that? You really believe that? Putin's going to attack the United States and blow us all up?
He could.
Really?
He could. He could.
Okay.
If he was allowed to do as you think that he should be allowed.
Well, I think it appears as though he's doing it because they're losing the war.
No, they're not losing the war.
You said they're not.
If he's winning, he's having a Pyrrhic victory.
Well, whatever, look, I like that.
They shot down 4 of their own warplanes 2 weeks ago. Putin did. That's how ridiculous they are. They shot down 4 of their own planes.
You believe that? You're not.
It's recorded.
Recorded where? You saw the plane burning? You saw they say that they're winning the war, man.
Charles,
they say they're winning and they're lying.
And you believe them, right?
They're lying.
You believe them?
No, I don't believe. I don't believe Russia? Joe Biden.
You believe Russia?
1 minute. I can look at the map and see where the Russians are and where the Ukrainians are. They occupy a third of the country, including all the Black Sea ports except Odessa.
No, they don't.
They do.
No,
Mark,
Charles, you're
man, you got a computer in front of you. Just look it up. Look at a map, man. Man, by the end of the summer, man, I just hope that you're.
By the end of the summer, by the end of the summer.
Oh, I hope you understand, man.
Russia, by the end of the summer, is going to be in such a desperate state. They're in a desperate state now.
Man,
they're in a desperate state now.
You know what you know what they're doing in June, don't you?
Which is why they don't even want you to know. They don't even want you to know how many lives have lost.
Man, they're having, man. Go ahead, believe it, man, believe it. I mean, but really, they're It's a bad situation over there.
You say you don't want Donald Trump, but you certainly are defending every position that this guy
I have no problem with Donald Trump on foreign policy. There was no war in Ukraine. There was no war in Ukraine, man.
Name a foreign policy that he had.
Was okay. He had a border that you didn't have 7 million people just walking across.
What policy did he have? What policy?
He had a remain in Mexico policy.
What policy?
If you wanted to come to the United States, you have to go through the door that we have established, and you must remain in Mexico until we call you. And illegal immigration.
Are you saying that the policy doesn't exist now?
No, it doesn't exist now. You just come right over.
No, you can't. No, you can't.
You can.
No, you can't.
You come over. You check in.
When Title 42 was lifted a week ago. Hold on a second. When Title 42 was lifted a week ago, you and all of your Republican friends, yes, you did.
I didn't say
we're saying, those people are going to come flooding into the country.
I didn't say that.
They're going to come flooding. And guess what happened? They didn't.
Mark. Okay,
they didn't.
But they have 7 million people have crossed the border during these first 2 years of the Biden administration. They have. All you got to do is all you got to do is go to the police station, and you'll see them sleeping in the street in the police station.
Yeah, because you have Republican governors who are illegally sending these people. He didn't send them here. Who sent them here? Who sent them here?
Why wouldn't you?
Who sent them here?
Don't you want to take them here?
Who sent them here?
Don't you think that the country?
Joe
Biden sent them.
No,
here
he didn't,
because he hasn't facilitated.
Okay.
Should they stay in Texas?
Can't have that conversation because you don't
want to
have an honest conversation.
Texas? Should they stay in Texas?
What they should have done is they should have processed them as they properly should have processed them.
Should they stay in Texas
or in California?
Should they stay in Texas?
Yeah, they should have processed them
and just let them stay in Texas.
Processed them there.
Oh, and then what happens? Yeah. Then what does Texas do?
What they have always done.
What
they've always done.
7 million people.
7 million people didn't go to Texas.
They're
7 million people didn't go to Texas.
Okay, 5 million, whatever.
5
they
million
should just stay in Texas. 2 million. They should just stay in Texas.
So you're just going to throw out an arbitrary number.
Chicago has a moral obligation to take their share of the people coming across the border.
They're doing that.
And they're doing that. They should do it, and they shouldn't complain about it. New York should do it. LA should do it. Dallas, Houston,
I don't think that
Chicago,
I don't think that the mayor is complaining about it.
You can't blame
I don't think that
the
the mayor is
Texas
complaining about it.
putting people on buses because
Chicago
said they would take them.
When you've lied to people and you told people, when you lied to people and told people that these people have a job for you, they have housing for you.
They said they can handle it.
Come on.
Chicago says it's a sanctuary city.
I'm not even going to debate that with you because it's so
you can't
ridiculous.
Debate it for me because Chicago is on record.
I'm not debating.
They've had city council votes to be a sanctuary city.
Well, it is,
and they are. Chicago is taking getting their
thing that they should.
They should get more. They should have many more.
They're doing the humanitarian.
And you know who? But you know who should be coordinating this whole business? Your sleepy Joe president. The guy who can barely remember his name. His government should be coordinating this and making sure that we don't overload Chicago or New York or Cleveland. We should be managing it. And he can't manage because he is demented. He is over the hill. He's finished. Man. I'm calling his name. No, man, I ain't calling his name.
You're the one who's talking about people calling names.
The guy.
You have this visceral disdain for Joe Biden.
I do.
I really do. You do.
Because I think he's a phony. I think he's a big phony.
Okay.
I think I know his history. I go back to the 1970s with Joe Biden. I'm
talking about the policies
and
that he's
Robert Byrd and
eulogizing
the grand cyclops of the Klan. You know, I remember Joe Biden. I know who he is. He don't want his kids going to a jungle with these black kids. That's who Joe Biden is. They're going to put y'all back in chains. That's Joe Biden. That's your boy.
Yeah.
That's your boy. Man, y'all had a lot better choices than that. A lot better choices. Now he's got the world on the brink of nuclear holocaust.
No, he doesn't.
Oh, man. Man, they're sending F-16 fighter jets over there now.
That would be your friend Putin.
Putin. Well,
that
whatever.
Be your friend Putin.
Well,
that is threatening
Putin,
nuclear
whoever, but
war.
Trump had that under control.
No,
Trump had that. He didn't have it.
He
didn't have a war in Ukraine. Come on, man.
If it was up to Trump, Trump was asking his Secretary of Defense, can I send bombs over here? Can I send
Oh,
bombs
really?
over there? Yes, he
call
was.
that one up. Give me
Yes,
that
he
story.
was.
Give me that story.
If you talk to, if you talk,
sit there and you say this stuff, but you
no,
you don't pull it up,
this
man.
is a matter of record.
I'll pull my stuff up, man. That ain't no record, man.
Yes,
Nobody
it
said
is.
that. Come on, Mark. You just say this
What-
stuff.
what-
pull it up,
what
man.
new- hold on a
Pull it
second.
up.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Are you telling me that you have not heard Trump's own Secretary of Defense go on national television and talk about how they had to restrain him and tell him no, that he couldn't do? Wait a second. Hold on a second.
They did,
Hold on
and
a
he
second.
didn't.
I just answered the question, Charles.
I am answering the question.
Are you telling me that you have not heard that?
But they didn't do it.
Are you telling me that you haven't heard it?
There were no.
Are you telling me you haven't heard it?
rocket systems selling Patriot, anti
Okay.
whatever?
So
they were.
You're not going to answer the question.
Tens of thousands of rounds of ammunition to a country to blow up other people. No, Trump did not do that. He didn't
Because
do
his
it.
Secretary of Defense
Whatever
would
his
not
secretary-
allow him to
There
do
are
it.
always
He was
kinds of
asking them to do it.
conversations, man.
This is a man who was
But-
talking about
because Trump-
shooting people
Trump
at the
hired-
border.
Trump clearly
This was a
hired
man who was
a
talking
more
about shooting people at
capable
the border.
Secretary of Defense than Joe Biden did, because you got all these guns and people going over there to Ukraine, and they're at the brink of nuclear war. Come on, man. The Russians, the United States has been fighting these people with AK-47s for the last 50, 75 years. Vietnam, Afghanistan, all this stuff. Now they got people they're fighting who have nuclear weapons. They invented satellite technology, 1957, maybe you weren't born yet, but in 1957, the Russians invented satellite technology, what you use on your car, that GPS thing. They
What's your
invented
point?
all that.
What
My
is your
point
point?
is,
What's your
they
point?
are bombing Ukraine with high-tech weaponry. This isn't some bull. This isn't somebody with a towel wrapped around their head and sandals. These people are a real army, and Joe is out here trying to fight them. For what? For Ukraine? What do I care about Ukraine? You don't want to be messing with these people. These people have guns and tanks and rocket launchers and hypersonic missiles. They got submarines parked off the East Coast that will incinerate this place.
What does that have to do?
It has
what
a lot
does
to
that
do
have
with
to
it.
do-
We need a
what does that have to
president
do with
who
it-
is
with it?
responsible.
Well, he is responsible.
He isn't
In
responsible
your
if he's
opinion,
doing
he's not.
this.
In your
My
opinion,
opinion
he's
is
not.
hundreds of thousands of people dead in Ukraine. That's what.
Not because of Joe Biden.
responsible. Who else is it because of? He's the commander in chief.
I'm not
He
even
can
gonna
stop
get into
this
that. I'm not
tomorrow.
even gonna- How can he stop?
Let's talk. Not this as long as it takes nonsense. Let's talk about it. Let's have negotiations. Come on,
they
man.
Have tried, the
When did
world has
all
tried
you
to
liberals-
negotiate.
All the liberals.
Wait,
now,
hold on
when
a
I was
second,
coming up
Charles.
in the game, it was the
You don't
liberals
want to have
who
you don't
wanted
want to have
peace.
a,
I was
an
out there
intelligent
with them.
conversation.
I
So
was out there
I'm
with
gonna
them.
let you go.
Now it's the liberals who want to fight and have a war. What y'all gonna do, man? Y'all gonna send over some of these people that that are, I don't know, man. I ain't going there. But like, what kind of army do you have? You got an army that's gonna go over there and fight these people? Really? In Europe, right in their backyard? This is stupid what they're doing. It's stupid, man. I can see that.
You can find all kinds of articles. Let's see. Last March, shortly after Russia's invaded Ukraine, Donald Trump reportedly told.
Reportedly
Right?
told.
Well,
That's not fact.
yeah.
That's reportedly.
Hold on.
It's a come from the New York
Hold on.
Times or one of those.
No, it's not. It's not
what
the
is
New
it?
York Times. It's not the New York
Reportedly
Times,
told.
right? So I'm pulling up three different news outlets that have the same report. Okay?
Which three?
So-
MSNBC, New York Times, and Washington
Now,
Post.
I watch.
They all their
of them.
propaganda
ABC,
propaganda
CBS.
organs.
So ABC, CBS, and
Oh yes,
and NBC are all propaganda.
Oh yes.
Okay. So
I don't believe any
so-
of it, man.
so-
I don't believe any of this
do you,
stuff.
so do you
Believe
believe
me,
the
I
Associated
used
Press?
to work there.
Do you believe the Associated Press? Come on.
Sometimes no.
Come on.
I have to read
Come on.
the
Charles.
alternative media as well as that, because I'm telling you, man,
They
do not
have become
report the
so-
truth.
You have
They don't
become
report the truth,
so
You got
tainted.
No,
You become so
not
tainted.
that tainted.
Yes,
some
you
of
are.
it that they report, I can take, but some of it I can't, man. Especially this war thing. They are lying about this war, man.
How do you know that? How do you know?
Because I'm looking at other reports, man. I'm searching other reports are showing.
What other reports are you searching?
I'm searching reports of independent journalists who are on the ground.
Journalists?
One guy is named Pat Lancaster.
Who is
He's
Pat
on
Lancaster?
there. There's another guy.
Is he?
There's another guy.
But who
named,
is Pat Lancaster?
He's a reporter. He's on the ground, a freelance reporter.
Where?
I don't know. He's embedded with the Russians.
Oh my God!
So he gives
and
you
we're supposed to accept them.
You're supposed to look at both sides, and decide for yourself
because you said that Burt Lancaster.
No, not Burt. This guy's name is Pat. He's on the ground. He's on the ground in Ukraine, and he does a Russian version. Okay. There's another guy named Colonel. He's guy named Colonel Doug McGregor. He's a retired Army colonel or whatever who does analysis of this. And you listen to the guy, and he makes sense. And everything he said about the war turned out to be true. Like right over the weekend, the Ukrainians were driven out of the last city in the West, a place called Bakhmut.
No, they are not driven out of the city. No, they're not driven out of the city.
They are out of the city. They're gone, man.
That is not a part of their strategic plan.
Of course it isn't anymore. But in December, Zelensky said it was the core of their strategic plan. Look,
they have not. Listen,
now it's gone, man.
Russia have lost tens of thousands of soldiers.
Of course,
they have.
And Ukraine has lost more.
Okay.
You know, that leaked Pentagon document said that there are 7 or 8 or 9 Ukrainians dying for every Russian because the Russians are using. I can't use for the leak. The leak.
No, you can't, because that document has been
They arrested the guy who leaked
that document.
That guy's in jail now.
Yeah, that document.
Why? If it wasn't anything,
when it got out. I didn't say it wasn't anything.
Oh, it's something. It's true.
That document certainly has been doctored since whatever it is that you read. You don't know that you're reading the authentic information.
Of course not. I'm just going by what the document said.
Why are you stating it as
because the document said it.
Okay.
The document said it.
You're stating it as being fact, and you know that it's been altered.
Mark, let me tell you something, man. If in August what you say is true, I will be the first person to admit that. No, you don't know that yet because this hasn't played out yet. But this war, I think, is something that's going to be an issue in the 2024
I think you need to stop saying
campaign.
That this was Joe Biden's war, because it's not.
Well, I don't know. There's a lot of thought to
Joe
this war
Biden
in the history of it.
Didn't send Putin and his soldiers over there to invade that country. It wasn't Joe Biden.
Putin invaded the country.
It was the world that was trying to talk Putin down.
You know what's going to happen in Russia in June?
We're trying to talk him down from that.
In June, on June 14th, 81 countries from around the world, including China, India, Brazil, South Africa, they're all going to Russia with 75 other countries. And they're going to have what's called the St. Petersburg International Forum. These are the largest countries in the world. This is a majority of countries in the world who right now are not supporting the United States in this war. In fact, they're talking about removing the dollar as the currency, the world reserve currency. They're talking about this every day. And because you're watching MSNBC and all these other people, they're not telling you this. They're about to pull the rug out from under us if we continue this nonsense. They are supporting the Russians. 81 countries. Look it up. St. Petersburg International Forum or St. Petersburg Forum. They have it every year. But this year, all these countries are going there because they're still buying oil from Russia. They're still buying oil from them. And they aren't paying any attention to Joe Biden. Joe Biden is driving us into a ditch.
No, he's not.
I'm telling you, man.
No, he's not.
Come on.
No, that's your opinion. Because your
because I read and I form opinions.
Show me these. Show me these 81 countries.
Okay,
right.
I'll show it to you
right
now, man.
I'll call them little undeveloped.
Well, there's South Africa. There's Brazil.
Yeah.
There's the second most populous country in this hemisphere, Brazil.
Come on, well, show me where somehow that Joe Biden is driving us into a ditch, and the rest of the world.
Keep talking, man, while I look this up.
I'm looking. Is this your Patrick Lancaster, who is the YouTuber influencer?
Yeah. He's that guy. I don't. But he's on the ground.
This is your source.
No, that's not my source.
Well,
I look at the guy, but I hear what he says.
A YouTuber.
Whatever. YouTuber. Absolutely.
That was the first thing they
absolutely is a YouTuber. Yeah, man. I absolutely use YouTuber
influencers.
Yeah, man. Right now you're on YouTube, aren't you? Aren't you on YouTube now?
I'm not the person that you're saying that you
a YouTuber.
As your source.
I can't depend on
information coming from Ukraine.
On the media these days.
You said he's on the ground. He's on the ground in Ukraine. This guy is?
No, he's on the ground in eastern Ukraine.
Okay.
And I just listened to him, and I listened to some others who talk about the war.
Others? Give me another one. Okay.
Oh man, I'll have to. I'm doing at the International Forum now. It's the 14th to 17th of June, International Economic Forum, and it's going to be in St. Petersburg, Russia.
In Russia.
Yeah.
In Russia.
So you got the Brazilians,
in Russia,
the Chinese.
They're going to Russia.
Yeah, they're going to Russia. Okay. They have a meeting in Russia. Yeah. Russia's a real country, man.
We should really
with nuclear weapons.
We should really be afraid of that.
Woo, man! Are you serious?
Yeah,
are you serious?
Really be afraid. We should be really afraid of those people.
Tremendous disrespect for Russians, and that's not a good thing to have. You should always respect your enemy.
We should really be afraid of
respect your enemy,
people.
Man.
Look, there are people in Russia.
We must focus primarily on economic growth
that don't want for Putin to be doing what he's doing, and he's been lying to his own country. He's been lying to his own country about what he's doing.
Been lying to his own country?
No.
Okay.
Not like
really?
Putin, who shuts down any access for them to get
so nobody lies
except
to you
for
in America.
Wait a second. Is Joe Biden controlling what the media puts out?
Oh yes.
Definitely.
Really? Oh, yes.
He tells the media what they can put out.
Oh, yeah.
Joe Biden does?
The whole apparatus, not Joe individually.
He tells the media what they can put out.
They have a
can't.
White House briefing every day with Karine Jean-Pierre. She has a briefing, and that is the administration's
and they're telling the
version
media
of what's happening.
Say and cannot say.
Well, I don't tell them what they can and
that's
cannot
what they
say,
do in Russia.
But they tell them
that's
what the official version is.
That's what they do in Russia.
Whatever. I mean,
that's what Putin does in Russia.
I've never covered news in Russia, but that's what happens in the United States.
You're telling me that
I'm saying that they have that we are not what they're telling you about the rest of the world lining up against Putin is a lie. They're buying oil from Putin, like 40 going south. They're all going to his international
who is
economic.
Saying that the rest of the world is lining up against Putin? Who is saying that?
But Joe has said that.
When?
He said there were 123 countries around the world that have lined up against Putin. He said this last year.
That's not supporting his invasion of Ukraine.
Right. But they're buying his oil. That's supporting his invasion of Ukraine. That's how he's getting money to do it. They aren't so put off by it. They aren't.
That's a complicated situation.
It is a complicated situation, but the bottom line is they still have relations with Russia. They aren't paying attention to the so-called sanctions that Joe went around talking about. They were going to cripple Russia. They haven't crippled Russia. They haven't crippled Russia at all. They even went so far as to blow up the natural gas pipeline from Russia to Germany. Hadn't stopped the Russians, has it? And they still have those nuclear weapons. They control the largest nuclear power plant in Ukraine, actually the largest nuclear power plant in Europe. They control it. They've overrun that. They're winning this war. And now we're sending F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine. Come on, man. That's just going to make it worse.
Well, look.
That's going to escalate it. Ukraine's not going to stop a nuclear armed power.
I trust the leadership of Joe Biden over the rhetoric that you are spewing and your visceral disdain for Joe Biden. I trust that he, along with the rest of the international community, are doing what is necessary to stop Putin from trying to become this giant that he wants to be, because he is aggrieved that the Soviet Union was broken up, and he's been reduced to this, in his words, this tiny little land. And even if you want to consider it to be a victory, it's a Pyrrhic victory at best. The thousands and thousands of lives that has been lost, Russian lives
and Ukrainian lives. Don't forget Ukrainian
for his invasion,
particularly Ukrainian.
Of him.
Particularly
because of him.
Particularly Ukrainian. Let me say that Ukrainian civilians, not soldiers, but civilians.
Yeah, because of him.
Well, because of his evilness. I mean, I don't know about evilness. I think there's as much evil in the United States right now.
The United States did not invade Ukraine.
They should stop.
The United States did not invade Ukraine. Russia invaded Ukraine. And you are trying to put that on the United States?
I'm saying that the United States should find a way. It's like Trump said in his interview at CNN. The woman asked him, "Are you supporting the Russians?" He says, "No, I want this killing to stop." And that's what a president should do. He should do everything he can to stop the killing.
He never said no. He did not say no.
But he never said yes. He never said he was supporting one side or the other.
I don't want anybody to die.
Exactly.
That's what he said.
That's presidential.
The woman asked him the question, does he support?
That's presidential.
That's presidential. That is not presidential.
You don't want people dying. That's what you don't want.
You don't want
and
Donald
people are
Trump.
dying.
You don't want Donald Trump as a president who would be supporting Putin. If he were in office,
supporting Putin.
He would be supporting.
He said he didn't want people dying. That's supporting Putin because you don't want people dying.
He didn't say that he didn't support what Putin was doing.
What he said.
No, I don't. I know exactly what he said.
He said
I know exactly what he said.
He wanted the killing to stop.
The woman asked him, "Do you support what Putin is doing?" He said, "I don't want anybody to die." He didn't say he didn't support Putin
because he doesn't want.
Do you support what Putin's doing?
No, I don't. I don't support what Zelensky is doing. I do not support what Zelensky is doing.
You don't.
No,
you don't support.
Absolutely
so Zelensky
not.
should just lay down.
Absolutely not.
He should just lay down.
Zelensky should.
He should just lay down.
Zelensky should get involved in peace.
He should just lay down.
Should he continue to fight and destroy his country? He can't beat the
defending
Russians.
His country,
but he can't beat the Russians. They have nuclear weapons. They have hypersonic
Putin
missiles.
thought that he was going to be able to go and just run over this country, and he got dealt with. He got dealt with.
You know what he did?
So you're thinking your position is that your position is that Zelensky should just lay down and let Putin come in and run over his people.
Zelensky's going to be. Zelensky. Let's see, he's not black, he's not Latino, he's not LGBTQ. He's going to end up in Florida. Believe me, it would probably be before the end of the summer because they're going to take him out. The Russians are going to take him out. Okay? I'm serious. Zelensky is not long for this world.
Okay.
He's going to have to leave the country.
I got a whole lot more respect for Zelensky than I would ever have for Putin. Ever.
That's okay. I'm just saying you need to have a peace talk. You need to have peace talks.
They've been trying to have that with him.
The Chinese,
they've been trying to have that with him.
The Chinese have tried.
They've been trying to have that. No, not Zelensky. The Chinese have tried with Putin.
They tried with Zelensky too. They had a conversation last week on the phone.
Yeah, and Zelensky said, "Tell Putin to get out of our country."
Exactly, and Putin's not going to leave his country.
Okay, all right.
Putin has a huge military and nuclear weapons. Why should he leave? Why should he leave?
Because he has no business being there. He has no business being there.
Now, so you're saying that should we send troops over there?
No.
They say that they're going to have Americans flying these F-16s.
No, they didn't.
Because you can't train
they did
the Ukrainian pilots fast enough.
That is not true.
That
is not true.
Okay. Who's going to fly the plane?
The American pilots are training the the Ukrainian.
And how
pilots.
soon are they going to be up and running?
I don't know about
Probably
all that.
not in time.
I don't know about all that. But you stated something that was blatantly not true.
Okay, what is that? I'll take it back if it was blatantly not true.
You said that the American pilots were going to be flying
I didn't
these
say
planes.
that. I'm saying that somebody's going to have to fly them. There might not be. Wait. Okay, there might not be Americans. Let's say NATO pilots will have to fly the planes.
No, they're
not in the war. If they come out,
they are training.
But they got to do it quickly. The Russians are about to move all the way across Western Ukraine. They are winning the war. They're winning. That's why you don't hear anything about great Ukrainian victories anymore.
It's a Pyrrhic.
Whatever.
Victory.
Pyrrhic,
Okay.
Symbolic, however you want to say it. But they're moving west.
A Pyrrhic victory
Poland.
means that if they have a victory, it is a great loss to Russia. It is a great loss to Russia and their people.
It depends on how you interpret it, my man. And if that's the way you interpret it, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. But I'm saying that we're being lied to about this war.
If you as a leader of the country have your people fleeing the country because you're having this this mandatory what do you call it? Calling them
conscription?
No,
draft.
You're called the draft, right? And these people are fleeing the country, and then you're having to go to your prisoners. You have to go to your prisoners.
They're doing the exact same. They're doing the exact same thing right now in Ukraine.
God.
Apparently, I've seen video of Ukrainian secret police grabbing people from cafes and carting them away to. I've seen the pictures, and that's what they say is happening in the screen.
You've seen pictures?
Well, video,
from where?
Video from
where?
Ukraine, from Kyiv, where they grab a guy who's might be 17 years old or an older guy who might be 45, 50.
But there's a lot of people in Ukraine who have voluntarily never been in the military said that they're going to fight for their homeland.
I'm sure.
There
are
thousands and thousands of them.
I tell you,
who are fighting for their homeland.
I tell you, this is going to be this could really
Not
derail.
Like
this could
what
derail.
Putin is doing is forcing people to go and die. Now that's very
okay,
different.
man. We'll see. We'll
different.
see what happens. I mean, I think we've worked this one over. I mean, I don't think we can come up with any answers here tonight.
Yeah,
but I think we're gonna see him later in the summer.
Yeah. I think that Zelensky is going.
No, I thought we were finished with this, man.
The support that he needs.
Okay,
We'll
we got it.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So, some other stuff is going on that I wanted to talk about. We covered that. Well, so what's going on with now that you have, what do they call that group in the House? The extremists, what do they call them?
I don't know.
What's that?
Which house? The National House? The National House.
Yeah. What there's a group, the Marjorie Taylors, I call them, the Thuglicans.
The Thuglicans.
I
don't know that you're talking about the most conservative.
The most extreme, not the conservative.
Extremely conservative. I don't know.
No, they're extreme.
Extreme
They're
Republican.
not even conservative. They're extreme.
Sort of like the Squad on the other side. Why not?
Like they're not even like the Squad.
So you won't be symmetrical in your conversation.
No, I'm being.
In other words, they're
not even anywhere close.
Oh, I know what we need to talk about, man. Real quick, is Cori Bush's bill that she introduced amid much fanfare.
Who?
Cori Bush, the congresswoman from St. Louis.
What's the bill?
The reparations bill, $14 trillion. You see that press conference?
No, I didn't see it.
Oh man, that's too bad. We have to do that next week then. But she has introduced she says she's going to introduce the bill for reparations, $14 trillion for the descendants of slaves. This would be a national, resolution as opposed to the California bill.
Okay, I have to read up on it because
you got to read up on that.
I heard her talking about something, but I didn't know what she was talking about because I caught the tail end.
She was talking about the reparations bill that she is sponsoring in the Congress. I think it's going to replace the bill that who's the brother from Detroit? I think he passed. He introduced a bill some time ago.
John Conyers?
Yeah, the Conyers bill. This is the new incarnation of it. What's going on here, man?
Yeah.
And but there's going to be a national conversation that obviously started in California, where they actually passed a bill. The mechanics of it are not finished, exactly how and how much, but she's introduced a bill nationally where the Congress will now begin to have a conversation about reparations for slavery and discrimination and all the.
I think it would just be interesting listening to the conversation.
Well, the conversation, I think it's going to be very interesting.
Interesting listening to the conversation,
because the Democrats, I think every press conference that any congressional candidate might have, coast to coast, every one of them is going to include that question. Where do you stand on reparations for Black people? And I would think that the vast majority of Democrats will say, let's give them reparations. And the vast majority of Republicans, if not all of them, will say absolutely not. And it is going to be a way that
you can comfortably say all of them.
Okay, all of them. And then, but I think what it is a cheap political trick on the part of the Democratic Party to somehow endear themselves to the Black vote, because they are running out of things to say, because they aren't doing anything. And now they have this new class of people in the country that they're going to have to. I don't know, man. I'm just saying what I think this scam is. Mm-hmm. And the question is, will Black people fall for the okey doke once again when they say they're going to give us reparations? This guy says, no,
there are
this
Black
guy
people
says,
who have
yes,
been arguing
for that guy over there who's going to give me reparations. I'm not voting for you because you said no to reparations, and we're going to fall into the trap again. Yeah, okay. And once again, they'll have our vote.
I won't minimize.
It's a scam.
I'm not going to minimize the intelligence and the wisdom of Black folks to know the difference between some cheap trick.
I hope you're right.
And the real substance.
I hope you're right.
Black folks are much brighter than that.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right. We haven't been to date. We haven't? No. I mean, what we talked about earlier, how Florida has a 4% Black unemployment rate. Illinois has the highest Black unemployment rate in the country. But you got the NAACP telling Black people in Illinois, don't go to Florida. That's idiotic. Don't
go spend your money in Florida.
Whatever.
He's talking about.
Whatever.
Don't go spend your money in
Florida, when it counts, Florida does better for Black people than Illinois. Illinois has the highest Black unemployment rate in the United States. Those are numbers from the unions, not from the politicians. Those are numbers from the unions. The Economic Policy Institute, Google it. They'll give you the numbers.
Black folks in Illinois earn more than Black folks earn in Florida.
So it costs less to live in Florida.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, it doesn't.
Florida has the highest.
You mean the internal of Florida?
It has the highest homeowners insurance.
I agree.
In the country,
I know that.
It has the highest.
And what's that mean?
Insurance in the country.
So you mean that these the Black people that are working in Florida, they're not.
There are people who can't even afford to insure their properties.
So living in a place
Florida
with a nearly 11% Black unemployment rate is better than living in a place that has a 3.87% unemployment rate. Okay.
Okay,
Mark.
You
I
have to.
I got you, man.
It's not that. It certainly is not that simple.
Said you didn't go to Chicago Public Schools to do your math, did you? Because they say that they're graduating people with 4th grade.
I went to public school in
I'm playing
Miami.
With you, man. I'm sorry, man. I shouldn't have.
But I moved from Miami to Chicago,
but
and boy, I thank God for
3.8%
shifting me to Chicago.
Rate, Black unemployment rate. Illinois has 10%, 10.9%. 3.5 times.
Why won't your Republicans? Why won't your Republicans agree to pay the bills that they approved?
Pay the bills?
Yeah.
Oh man, you mean the deficit?
No, the debt ceiling.
The debt ceiling.
Yeah. Why won't they agree to pay the bills?
Because if they don't pay them, then Joe Biden will not have ribbon cuttings next year.
Okay.
It's a
so
political
that's what that
move.
is about.
Yeah.
So we should send the country into ruins.
No, that's what they will. Hey, they did it with Trump 2 times, impeaching him on some bullshit.
No. They raised the debt ceiling 3 times.
They
raised it 3 times.
But the thing is, they took the gloves off.
Yeah,
Okay?
okay.
The gloves are off.
So you think it's okay?
I think it's a political move.
But
the
but you think it's
Republicans
okay
are going
to
to
do
win
it?
the debt ceiling thing.
You think it's okay?
Because they're playing hardball now. Everybody's doing scorched earth. They're raiding ex-presidents' homes. They're calling up on
No, he's
crazy
a criminal.
Sexual harassment charges. They got
he's an indicted,
indicting
convicted
people
rapist.
on porn star stories. They got stuff
he's
like
a
that
criminal.
going on. They have no mercy, and they're trying. So Joe can't have many of his ribbon cuttings next year in the election.
All right,
That's
he
what
will.
it is.
He will. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us this week. Charles Thomas and myself, Mark Wallace, for this edition of the People Show. We'll be right back here with you. Not next week, because next week is the holiday weekend, right? It's a holiday weekend.
Yeah, man.
So
I hate to miss it, man. I mean,
we won't be back next week, but we'll be back the following week with another edition of the People Show.
God bless everybody.